This baby blanket has a hidden trick that's super simple but totally addictive, and it's all done with surface crochet. Let me show you how to make this eye-catching design without losing your mind over colour work. So today I'm going to be using some paint box yarns, simply Aran. You can use any Aran or worsted weight yarn. You're going to need 2 colours to make the checkerboard effect, and then you can use any colours you like to add the surface crochet. This is done at the end, so it's a great way to use up some of those little odds and ends that you've had lying around in your stash for ages. Also going to need a 5mm hook, some scissors and a darning needle to sew in those ends. So I've got this small swatch here to help show you how we're going to be making our blanket. So we're going to be starting off with the green colour and alternating between the green and the cream, ending with the green, and then the same in the rows. You start with the green and you end with the green at the edge. So we're going to be working in multiples of 12, so you need to chain a multiple of 12 plus 1 extra stitch, but you need to have an odd number of the multiples of 12, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to start with the green. Just going to put a slip knot on my hook. So for the purpose of the tutorial, I'm going to chain 37, which is 3 12s plus 1 extra stitch. So you need a multiple of 12 plus 1 extra stitch, but then make sure that you have an odd number of checks. So I've got my 37 chains, and I'm going to start by putting a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. So we've got 1, 2, so a half double crochet into that second chain, and I'm going to put a half double crochet into the next 10 stitches. So I'm going to keep going until I've got 11 half double crochet. Okay, so once you've got your 11 half double crochet, we're then going to change to our next colour, which in this case is going to be the cream. So we're going to work the first part of our next stitch. So it's half double crochet into this next stitch, and before we finish off that stitch by yarning over and pulling through all of those loops, we're going to just drop the green and pick up the cream, and then finish off that stitch with the cream, like so. And now we're going to continue with the half double crochet in the next 11 stitches, but at the same time you want to be working over that green tail. We're going to carry that across with us. Okay, so I've got a total of 11 stitches now in the cream, so we're going to change back to the green again on the next stitch. But before you do that, I like to just turn over the back here and just make sure that this green yarn that we've carried is lying flat. Sometimes it starts to poke out through the stitches, so just give it a gentle tug just to make sure it's completely flat. And then we're ready to change colour on the next stitch. That's half double crochet into that next stitch, just the first part of the stitch, and then we're going to drop that cream to the back and then pull through that stitch with the green. Now you might need to just kind of like tug this cream a little bit just to adjust it to get the tension right, and then we're going to carry on in the next 12 stitches because we're at the end now, so we don't need to worry about changing colour at the end, into our last remaining 12 stitches. And make sure you're working over the top of the cream as you go along. So I've worked my next 12 stitches in the green, and before we start the next row, I'm just going to turn it over and have a look at the back, and you can see there's a few places where the white is poking out, so I'm just going to gently pull that so it just lies flat. And then we're ready to start the next row. So we want to carry this white up the side of our work, and we don't want to have any long floats while we're doing this. So the way that you can avoid those long floats is just rest the cream over the top of your hook and then chain 1 and turn, and this just carries that white up the side without leaving long floats. And then we're going to start with our half double crochets again. So half double crochet into that first stitch, working over that that white, and just gently pull that just so that it's nice and snug. And then we're going to keep working our half double crochet stitches, and now we can clearly see where we need to change colour, because we're just going to work a half double crochet in all of the green stitches that we see. Once you finish that first row, it's very easy to work your colour changes. You don't have to do so much counting. So we're going to keep going until we get to that last stitch. And as again, I'm just going to check. You can see, look, there's a few places where that white is popping out. So just gently give it a little tug before you change colour. And again, we're going to work the first part of our half double crochet, drop the green, and I'm bringing the green to the front and finishing off that stitch. Now you need to, it doesn't make any difference which colour goes to the front and which goes to the back, but you always want one of the colours to go to the front and the back, and this will save your yarn balls getting all tangled up together. So now we're going to continue with a half double crochet, working over that green as we go. Now you will notice that you will see, particularly with the white, you'll see little dots of the green showing through, but I think it actually looks quite pretty with those little green dots. I think it adds to the overall appearance of the finished blanket. Okay, so I'm at my last stitch here. I'm just going to give that green a little tug to make sure that's snug. And then we're going to swap colours again on this last stitch. So cream is going to the back. Finish off that stitch. And then continue in the green. So I'm at the end of the row again. So you're just going to continue and repeat that last row that we did until you've got a total of 8 rows. I'm just going to show you how to carry that yarn again, just to be sure that you know. So you're just going to lay that cream over the hook, chain 1 for your turning chain and turn, and then you're ready to start putting your half double crochets again for the next row. So you go ahead and keep going until you've got a total of 8 rows. So I'm going to assume that you've gone ahead and done your 8 rows, and I'm going to show you how you now swap the colours over so that you're starting with the cream and working cream, green, cream instead. So let me just pull back this last stitch. So you're going to change colour on this last stitch. So we're going to put our half double crochet into that last stitch. We're going to drop the green. Remember, we're always bringing one of the colours to the front and one to the back. So I'm having the green to the front and the cream at the back. Finish off that stitch. And then again, we're going to carry the green up. So we lay the green over, chain 1 for our turning chain and turn. And now we're going to start with half double crochet in the first stitch as normal. We're just going to give our carriage on a little tug just to make sure it's snug, and then carry on working in our stitch pattern as normal, working over the green yarn. And don't forget to check and always pull that carriage on so that it's not popping out anywhere. And as you can see here, we've come into our last green stitch, so we're now going to change from the cream to the green, like so, and then carry on with the green. So you're going to keep working across, and every time you get to the end of the white, you're going to switch to green. When you get to the green, end of the green, you're going to switch to the white. So you're just going to continue working a total of 8 rows in that colour sequence, and then you will change back to the original colour sequence. So once you've made your blanket as big as you would like it to be, you're ready to add the surface crochet stripes. And these are, even though it's an advanced technique, they are much easier than you would think. So we're going to be working along the width of the blanket, and you can see I've counted here 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, And let me just count here where you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and where you have the gaps where the stitches are coming from the previous from the following row, this is where you're going to insert your hook. So I've alternated between the mustard and the pink in my stripes, but you can use any colours you like. So I'm going to work this next stripe in the pink. So we're looking for the rows 1, 2, 3, 4. So here you can see there's a little hole here where the stitch is going in. So I'm going to put my hook in there and I'm going to pull the yarn through from underneath, like so. Now don't worry about this first stitch, it's going to be a bit loose, but we're going to finish that off at the end. So you need to hold your yarn as you normally would underneath your work, and then you're looking for the next hole, which is the next stitch, and you're going to go in, pick up that yarn from underneath and pull it through to make a stitch. Now you want to work these quite loosely, otherwise you could end up with the blanket puckering. If you find it easier, you can go up a hook size to do this. So we go into the next stitch, find that yarn from underneath, pull it through. Whoops. And you're just really, it's like drawing on the top of your crochet with yarn. So you're just going to keep going through each stitch across, working your surface crochet. So you just keep working your surface crochet stitches all the way across your blanket. Just coming up to the edge now, so I'm just putting my chain stitches in those last few stitches and then you're going to finish by fastening off, and this is going to go over the edge of your blanket like so. So the chain stitches are going all the way to the edge. Now you need to kind of make that happen at this end as well, so we're going to use a darning needle to do that. So you just want to thread your tail onto a wool needle, and then you're just going to go underneath the 2 loops like so. And then you can just secure that at the back and weave that end in. Now when you work your border, you will work across the very edge of that, so you don't need to worry about the very edge of that. And there you have your surface crochet. So you're going to go ahead and do this in the middle of your checks all the way across your blanket. You could add you could add more of these if you wanted. You could put 2 rows along each check or 3 rows. It's really up to you how much surface crochet you want to add to your blanket. Now before we add the border, I'm going to do a little bit of border prep that I like to do when we're working along the raw edges here. I like to add a row of slip stitches along the edge, and this gives you a really professional finish to your border. Now this is optional, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it will give you a more professional finish. Now I chose mustard for my border. I chose one of the colors that I used for the stripes, but you can use any color you like. You can choose one of the colors from the stripes, or you can choose one of your main colors. It's entirely up to you. I think I'm going to go with the pink today, seeing as I did the border in the mustard last time. Let's see how it looks with the pink. So let's just pretend I've got another stripe of surface crochet there. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to join here in the side of one of this top stitch here and pull our yarn through. Now what you're aiming for is, we've got 12 stitches across this way, so I found that working 12 slip stitches across the side of each check of each square worked perfectly for me. So that's what I would advise you to do, but you do need to take into consideration your own tension, so you might need more or less stitches, but 12 worked perfectly for me. And you do want to work fairly loosely because you will need to work into these when you're adding your border. Whoops. So there I've got 12 slip stitches going across the side here, and you're going to continue doing that 12 in the side of each of your checks all the way down this side, then fasten off and then do exactly the same on the other side. So when you're ready to add your border, I am going to start with a slip knot on my hook, and you can put a double crochet in any stitch across the top. I'm just going to start up here near the corner. So to do a double crochet straight into a stitch, have a slip knot on your hook, yarn over, and then just work that stitch as normal, like so. And then you're going to put a double crochet into each stitch across the top of the blanket. And once you get to the corner, so I'm in this corner stitch now, I'm going to put double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet for the corner. And then we're going to start putting a double crochet into each of these slip stitches we've worked across the sides. And you're going to keep going all the way across the side of your blanket until you get to the next corner. So I'm just coming up to the corner of my blanket now. I'm just working into that last slip stitch. And then we're going to work our corner. So we're just working into the corner stitch here with double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then we're now working along the bottom side of our blanket. So we're going to be working into the bottom of the foundation chain. So we're just going to put a double crochet into each stitch all the way across. Oops. Very, very simple, this first round of the border. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to work all the way across the bottom of your blanket. You're going to work the corner in the same way, and then work into your slip stitches along the side, then work this final corner in the same way, and then working a double crochet into each stitch all the way across. Once you've worked all the way around and get back to the beginning, you're just going to join with the slip stitch to that first double crochet. Now, as you can see, it looks really, really nice and neat across the sides. Now, I deliberately didn't put the slip stitches down the other side of the blanket so you can see what it looks like. And it still looks good, but I don't think it looks as good as the side that's had the slip stitches worked through it first. Okay, so we're now going to start to work our ribbing. So we're going to chain 2 to start. This counts as a post double crochet. But anyway, we're going to do a front post double crochet. So you're going to yarn over your double crochet, and you're going to put your hook around the back of the stitch like so, and work your double crochet stitch so that the double crochet sits around the front post of your stitch. And then we're going to do a back post double crochet in the next stitch. So you go from the back going around the front of the post and working the stitch so that the stitch sits at the back of the post like so. Now in the corners, your corners are going to change depending on whether you had a front post stitch or a back post stitch. So first of all, we're just going to put a double crochet and a chain 2 and a double crochet. If you find you need a chain 3 there, you can put a chain 3 there. Now the first stitch here at the corner, this was a back post stitch, so we're going to do the same on here just so that it looks even. So we're going to do back post double crochet next, and then front post double crochet. And we're just going to alternate between a back post and a front post. And just remember that in the corner, if you ended with a front post double crochet, you will put a double crochet, chain 2 or 3, double crochet, and then the next stitch, the first stitch you do, will be another front post double crochet. So just make sure you keep that correct at the corners. So I'm just going to continue across to the next corner just alternating between a front post and a back post double crochet. Just coming up to the next corner here, and the last stitch I did was a back post double crochet, so the next stitch will be a front post double crochet, and then in the corner double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and then because we had a front post stitch here, we're going to start off with a front post double crochet, and then you're just going to alternate between the two all the way across, and just repeat that all the way around your blanket. Okay, so at the end I'm just going to join to the top of that chain 2, and then we're going to chain 2 to start our next round. This will be the last round of the blanket, and basically wherever you see a front post double crochet, you're going to put another front post double crochet like so, and wherever you see a back post double crochet, you're going to put a back post double crochet. Now this time in the corners it's going to be a bit different. So in the corner I'm going to put 3 double crochet. It's 1, 2, 3, and the same, we're going to make sure this is a front post double crochet for the next one, and then just continue with the pattern around, putting a back post double crochet into every back post double crochet from the previous round, and a front post double crochet from every front post double crochet from the previous round, and simply just join with the slip stitch to that first stitch at the beginning, and that's your blanket finished. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to check out my blanket playlist for even more cozy makes, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.